Welcome back, guys. Before I get into showing you how to do environment design with the engine, I'm just going to explain how you import your models into it so that you don't get confused as to why they're not appearing. First thing you're going to do is open up your project folder, and there's a top folder normally. There's a folder called data, and in that data you'll find lots of different things, and you're looking for the folder called meshes, and in there is all the models you have for your project. And there's lots of different folders, and in those folders there's subfolders, and it goes on. Basically, whenever you want to add a model into your project, you literally drag and drop into one of these folders. And that's it on that front. Make sure the textures are in the same folder as the model. So, for example, there's a fountain model here. You've got your model and two textures that come with it. Don't need that anymore. Once that's done, load up the GUI. Give it a sec. Right, once it's ready, there is this second tab in. There's a tab called Media, and you'll come up to this sort of display. Top right, left rather, there's a drop down box, and you've got View 3D Meshes, Textures, Sounds and Music. I'm just going to show you how to do it with 3D models, since the others are pretty much the exact same process. And here you got different various folders. So this is actually a preview of what your model looks like. You can select it. This will be all the models in that folder. In this case there's only one here. If we go to, I don't know, grass, there's lots of different models here we've got to work with. And if you want to add a new model, you press the Add New File button, and it'll open up a sort of directory thing, and this is actually all the folders in your meshes folder, and you've got to find the one where you've added a brand new model. I'm just going to show you how to do that. I've already imported this, but it's alright. And you open it up, and you find your individual model, and you click, and you press open once you've selected it. If you've got lots of models in one folder, you can just click on the folder once and press open. Yeah, and you do that, for example, and it gives you an option of meshes animated. If your model is animated, rigged or whatever, you have to tick that box, otherwise you won't be able to, well, it won't animate in game. Just going to cancel that. If you press OK, I'll say also add subfolders to database. You want to press yes and press OK. I don't think, no, it hasn't. And your model will now appear in your folder selection thing up here, and that's it really. That's become imported. If you ever want to move stuff around, it's a bit annoying because you'll start getting errors. What you have to do is remove the file, or give the option to also delete from disk. That means it'll delete the file from your computer if you press yes. I'm going to try to cancel that actually. Will that work? No, just deletes it anyway. I'm just going to add that model back in. Wherever it's gone, rocks, open, and there, and it's back again. There you go. Right, jump into the zones tab. First of all, we want to select the zone we're working in, and then you got our planes. This is the terrain we made a while ago in the last video, and it looks very boring. I mean, you've got your fancy textures here and there, but in general there's not much going on. Again, to move around is literally hold down spacebar, left and right mouse button. Down the bottom, the camera speed, instead of a slider, it's a percentage mark. I'm just going to turn that down to 20. And you can, from what I understand, move around with number keys. Nope, you can't. That's a lie. That is using 8, 6, 4 and 2 on the number pad if you have one of those. I don't use it, the mouse is easier anyway. As you can tell at the moment, the lighting looks a bit weird, and that's to do with the angle which it's positioned in. So before we do anything, we're just going to sort that out. I believe it is this, nope, right, the tab with the star, environment options. Bring up the new options here. If you like change panel, they change every time. Yeah, you want to go to environment options, and these two little boxes. They adjust the light pitch of your things. So if you want it 90 degrees directly from top, and the light pitch becomes 90. We're not going to do it that extreme because that makes things too bright. That's looking slightly better. Doesn't look as dull. If we do -10, that just makes everything look dark. Let's just do 10's looking nice. It's still a bit dark, so you can turn that to 15. You know what? Let's just put it 20. And the light yaw, it's sort of, I don't know, it does something. I think it changes. I don't really know, to be honest. I don't know. I'll find a setting that works best for you. I suppose it changes the rotation of the angle where it's being shot from. We're not having it at -180, that's just weird. Shove it at 20. And it sort of creates a fake shadow effect across here, which is quite nice. You got the same over here. It's just, it adds a bit more. But it doesn't look anywhere near as dark, dull, miserable, or anything like that. Alright, now that's that sorted. We're just gonna, at the moment, if you hadn't noticed, the sky is grey. Well, there is no sky at the moment. So, at the top, you've got your sky, stars, clouds, storm clouds, and this is your different skybox textures. So, press skies, go in there, and there's only one available. That's disappointing. Okay. Cancel that. Save that for now. I'm going to minimise this. I'm going to go get more textures because that was horrible to look at. So, to import textures, slightly different to mesh. Instead of going to meshes, you go to the textures folder. We want it to go in the skies. And I'm going to go grab some textures from my project. There we go. And we're just going to grab all of them. Why not? Shove it in there, copy it in. And let's replace those. Alright, that'll give us a bit more to work with. Go back into the engine. Because we've just added them, if you notice, they're still not there. And that's because we haven't imported them. So we go back to the Media tab, and we go on Textures. We're going to add a new file, and we're going to re-import the entire skies folder. And if that's on, we want that on PNG, I believe. I don't know. What file type were the things? They're all PNGs, right. So yeah, you want to select the PNG file type, select your folder, press open, and it comes up with loads of these options. If it's just a standard texture, there's nothing fancy going on. All you need is the color selected and the bitmap. Okay. Alpha and mask is if you want to try introducing transparency settings. That's stuff you'd use. Well, I don't really know that. That was come more. The rest of the options really are more handy when you come into building particles. So we'll go into that later. Re-add all that, and we go back into our zones tab. And we should have loads of new sky textures. So there we go. I'm going to start with a base sky, just being like that. Nothing fancy, very basic looking broad daylight sky. We're going to set the clouds to another texture. And set it to that. There we go. So now we've got a sky, we've got clouds, and they're moving. It's looking nice-ish. Right, so after we've done that, we also need a night sky, and that's where you press the stars, and during the night it will swap to this texture. So we want to find a texture which is a bit generally darker. Yeah, let's just use a stars one actually, because that one looks quite nice. It is very basic, it's black texture. And we want to set our storm clouds as well. Yeah, set our storm clouds. And we're going to... Basically, these are the clouds that will appear if the weather settings, which I'll go through now, take effect. So nothing too fancy. If we just set to another clouds texture for now. Clouds 2, there we go. So when it's stormy, it will look like that. That looks a bit dodgy, but oh well. Right, I'm just going to re-update the sky texture so it just becomes daytime again, so it doesn't look so gloom. There we go. Everything else is saved. You don't need to go reselect everything once you've done that. There's a save zone button towards the left, which is kind of really handy. On top of all that, there's a ticks box for zone is outdoors. And that basically means, with that, if you don't have that ticked, then I believe with this version of the engine, the suns won't show. It's like your moon, your general sun, and also none of your weather settings will take effect. So you want to make sure that's ticked if it's outdoors, or if it's an instance or a dungeon, you want to make sure that's not ticked. Unless you want it raining inside your building. And next we got the minimum fog range and the maximum fog range, and this is literally the fog range. So, this is how far the player can see. So say he's standing here, he won't be able to see further than that. Now that is actually causing a clipping effect, which does weird stuff, and it stops rendering after that point. It doesn't look great, so make sure your maximum fog range is just big enough to cover up the majority of your terrain. It doesn't have to be all of it. If it is a big zone, then obviously you can't have it that short, otherwise it's just going to melt the player's computer. Bring that up slightly. There we go. So that sets the fog towards the distance. Right? Now at the moment the fog is white, and it doesn't really suit this zone. So underneath we've got a fog color, and this is a scale of 0 to 255, and it's literally like using an RBG code. And if you change that, it makes it completely pink, and you can just try and find a sort of balance. I'm going to go for a lightish greeny yellow, although I can't actually remember what the RBG code for that is. That's a bit too strong. Might actually have if I look this up. Let's set it. No, let's not. Okay, I'm going to open up my web browser. I'm going to go Google, and what you can do is literally just type in RGB color codes. Right, and there's rapid tables, usually does a good job. And I don't know, we want a pale yellow, so that's telling me that color is 255, 255, 102. So if we go in here, 255 being the max, 255, 102 being around here. That is too strong. Okay, and you don't want your fog color to be too bright, because during the night it will stay that color. So bring that down like that. We're going to increase. I'm going to bring that up slightly, so it's not as strong. There we go. That's still quite powerful. There we go. We got our fog set up. Not the greatest thing in the world, but you can spend more time with it. Next up is your ambient lighting. You do not want to make this too bright. Okay, if you shove it at max, what will actually happen? I'll explain a bit later on more in detail, but when your suns rise and set, they have their individual colour, which allow you to create a sort of dawn and dusk effect, which is quite nice. But if you set your ambient colour to maximum, you won't be able to notice it. So keeping it just below the middle halfway point is generally it works nicely. So we're going to boost the red and green slightly, ever so slightly, to give a slight feel, but we're going to bring the blue down. What we don't want, which I've just done, is making everything here look a bit yellow. There. That's a bit weaker. There we go. Makes it look like a swamp, that's awful. Right, I'm just going to leave it at that. At the top you've got your weather option. You've got two other tabs. You've got your weather and your other. And your weather, this is literally probability of how it happens. So if you want there to be a 50% chance of it raining in that zone, then you just type in 50. That's literally it. I'm not going to bother putting any weather things in there for now. I'm going to keep this zone relatively weather clean. If you don't have anything set, you don't have to, and nothing will happen with that system. Your gravity, 100% being the default amount, the amount you expect. Okay. You can turn that down to try and create a space effect, or if you want people to jump a bit higher, instead of changing the animation, you can adjust the gravity. I do recommend changing the animation though, because that's really bad practice. The slope restriction basically stops you for how sort of degree you can walk up cliffs. I'm going to switch that to 0.8, which means no, I'm not. I'm going to switch that to 0.7. Basically, it stops the player from walking up flat surfaces like that. Okay. And if it's at 0, a player won't be able to move, because it means he can't move on anything which isn't completely flat. And if it's at 1, then the player can walk up everything unless it's 90 degrees straight down. So, no, it's just something to take into account. Once we've done that, we can move into the water mode, which is what we're going to do first. And you press the water mode, it looks like a weird blue funnel thing. And you notice there aren't any options here at the moment. And what you need to do first is to right click, and that'll create a red cube square surface thing. And this is a water plane. Okay, at the moment it's just got a bunch of zeros on it. And you can move this around. At the bottom you got a selection of tools. You've got select, move, rotate, scale, yada yada. But this anyway, like, we're going to keep it here, relatively low down. You don't need to worry about moving it to the middle. Okay, we want just to justify, because it's a water plane, what you do, once you've made it, you scale it so it covers the entire zone. Okay, you don't have to. That's just generally, if you're only having one spot of water, might as well. And you just scale this right up so it fills up the entire gap. Okay. If you go into your terrain, you can see how far it's extending to. If you want to be a bit more, I don't know, precise, you don't have to scale it up that much. You can press the precise button, it comes up with all these different options. You can move it to like a 1/6 of a decimal place. Change the scale, rotation, all that jazz. Don't worry about rotating the water plane, because frankly it won't even bother saving that. It's pointless information the game doesn't need. Yeah, you can move around. I'm quite happy with that height, and at the moment it's red, and that's simply because you've selected it. So if you unselect it, there's your water. And that is, well, that's just a load of zeros at the moment. We need to change the texture. So you select it again, and we want to change the surface texture. And if we go into water, there's a new water texture. We're just going to use that. Right, at the moment it still looks weird, and that's mostly because the scale of the texture is completely messed up. So we have an option here called texture scale. I'm going to increase that to 10, and notice now it's looking a bit more like water. So that's still not enough. Let's increase that to 20. That's too much. 15, there we go. And I'm going to move that up even more. What I don't want is it appearing elsewhere on the map. Right, that looks alright. So we've got our little pond here, and you got your opacity settings. So if you set that to 1, you can't see through it. Okay, in game it will look like that. Won't actually, because it's got all the fancy. You'll be moving, and you got your little bump map effect, so it looks 3D instead of completely flat. But yeah, you can change your opacity. You have that. You won't be able to see it. Completely gone. You can change it slightly. It's always nice to see underwater. So if you had a rock there, the player would be able to see it. And so this is relatively clean water, so we're going to keep the opacity just above there. Don't want to make it too transparent, otherwise it just looks weird. But there you go. Alright, also we got these 2 other settings here. We got damage per second and damage type. This that basically allows you to deal damage to the player if he enters this, well, if he goes swimming. This is not really helpful for water, but if it's like lava, you can use the same water system to create lava pool, and you want that to insta-kill them, then set the damage to, I don't know, 90,000. Change the pierce damage type to whatever you want. Watercolor. That is the colour of the water when you go under it. When the player thinks, the fog settings change, and everything will become that colour. Okay, you get limited vision, that's all. It's groovy. I'm going to make the blue slightly lighter. There's no real way of seeing if that works without actually testing the game. That's the water done. I'm just going to hit save zone. Now, we're going to jump into... yeah, we're going to start putting models down. And we're going to start by going into scenery mode, which is the little house icon. And over here you have two options. You've got align to ground and change. And if you press the change, it will open up your little whatever you want to call it, file explorer thing, and you can literally select your rocks, for example, and then right click, put it down. Okay. To help keep things to scale, what I recommend doing is, before putting anything down, you go into your actors folder and you find the male animated, or female if you're a girl, doesn't really matter, they're the same height anyway. Basically that is the height of your player. Okay, so if we move them up to the door, providing we did it right in the trainer, you should generally fit. The door's quite big, but oh well. Over here, it's generally, it's alright. Slightly big, but nothing too over the top. So yeah, we're just going to start. One thing some of you may have noticed is that this is actually the 1.104 version of the engine, which means lots of new funky options there compared to what you'll be using. They're still in the process of making. We're hoping to get them done as soon as possible. But the ones which you guys will have is animation mode, inventory size, collision, scenery, can be owned, catch rain snow particles, locking object, and duplicate. The others have not finished yet. So, yeah, Yoga, first thing we need to do actually, before we start putting this, is if you click on your terrain, notice there's a giant box out there. It's technically counted as a model. The collision mode has to be set to polygon. Okay, otherwise you're just going to fall straight through. And same thing goes for your buildings. They are automatically done on polygon because you place them in the terrain editor. This guy is not going to be here when you've like finished your zone. He's going to be gone. But this rock is not going to look great if you can walk through it. So you can use the scale. You can press the rotate button. Go crazy around. You can move it around. If you want to be really precise again, you can just use this. And I'm going to put a few of these rocks scattered about. Nothing too fancy. If you press duplicate, it will make a copy. I believe D does it as well, or Shift D. Really? There you go, Control D. We'll make another copy. There you go. When you're placing your rocks, just rotate them around a bit. Don't keep them all in the same angle. It just looks weird. Move it there. Is that working now? I just made millions of copies. Alright, it looks a bit weird having these things stick up. So, I'm going to change the scale of them slightly. Make some variance. Rotate it. And I'm going to change this pitch value to like 20. That brings it down and drag the rock down. And you can put these at different angles just to add a bit more. I don't know, it looks nicer, I suppose. Whatever you want to call it. Scale that down a bit. I'm going to make this one a bit stumpier compared to the rest. There you go. Just move it around. If you basically when you duplicate it, you're copying all its settings as well. So if you set your collision mode to polygon and you duplicate, the copy will have polygon as well. I'm just shoving these around a bit. Scale that up to change the roll to 20 and move that down. If you want, you can type in your own values. There's like nothing wrong with you changing them yourself. It will save it. You don't need to go into that much detail, but some people are like fanatics like that. So there you go. I'm going to duplicate that, shove one in the corner here, put a part of the cliff thing, move that down. There you go, just make it a bit more rocky-like. Possibly have one over here, since this is looking a bit alone. Scale that up. Maybe not so much actually. Let's do that. Make it slightly longer. Bit stumpy. No. Yeah, that was right actually. You can use that to manipulate your model a bit. You don't want to do it too much, otherwise you start getting a stretching effect. If you do small amounts it can work. There you go. Right click, deselect everything. There you go. That's alright rock-wise. You'll also notice there is an align to ground option here, and that's what we're going to use now, because we're going to cover this place in grass. This is going to generally take a while, because we have to do it for each grass model individually, and it's a bit of a pain. This is where the model brush in the terrain editor comes handy, but the reason why I didn't use it is that by default it will set all their collisions to polygon, which means you'll have lots and lots of grass which you'll have to individually select and change the polygon settings to none. Right, once you've selected your grass model, what I've done, just to speed the process up, instead of having one grass model, I've put them in a sort of cluster. You can't see it very clearly there. And if you tick the align to ground button, you just right click and it will automatically dump it straight to the ground. Grass done. So you can literally just go from here, right click away. You don't have to worry too much about the rotation of these ones, because it's literally just going to be try and keep that off the road, and the our different grass texture patch. We can put like flowers there, possibly some trees. And you're just clicking away, and if you look there now, you've got nice variation of grass. For some reason it's doing weird things from this angle. Oh well. Shoving grass here, there. One thing to be aware of with the align to ground, it won't align it to the terrain, just the terrain. It'll do it to any model. So if you put it on the side of this rock, it will change it so it's in line with that side of the rock. So sometimes if you catch it by accident, you can accidentally align it to the side of the grass, so you have flying grass, which is not great. Just shoving that everywhere. Not being too specific with it, it's literally just random clicking into some open spots. I'm intentionally leaving the second grass texture patches alone for now. At least trying to, not doing a very good job. If you want to be really technical and fancy, you can like add them up here as well. That looks a bit odd. If you get like individual grass models, shove them on the cliff sides, it will look really good. But I'm not going to do that because it's just too time consuming. Trying to get this done. There is no like trick to grass placement. You just know you don't put it on certain things, it's not going to grow on rock, and if it does, there's not going to be much of it. There you go. And if you just like suddenly see a spot you missed in the future, there's nothing stopping you from coming back to it and just filling it out. I'm going to put a little bit here. Okay. on principle's sake, let's put a little bit on here. Not there. There's some patches here, there we go. Nope, that's flying, forget that. There we go, so the zone's slowly getting its shape. We got lots of grass, just disappearing randomly and reappearing. It's fine really, it'll be fine in game. There you go, it's still looks quite bare, but it's less bare than that. It's nice to have like lots of grass models. Obviously if you're using massive zones there's a few more restraints, but having lots of these grass models, it makes it a little bit less 2D along the floor. I mean, we raised the land slightly to have some variance, but even still it looks a bit flat anyway. Now I'm also going to dump some flowers around, because grass is not the only thing that grows. So in my grass folder we got this actually. This is another type of grass, slightly bigger, and these guys are huge. Which is not great, because that means we can't really just drag and drop them, can we? So I'm going to, just to put this in perspective, the grass height is alright for the actor. This one, however, is relatively big. So I'm going to show that down. I want this to be slightly bigger than the grass, but nothing massive. And this is just like a really basic bush model. Show that there. Put that next to the rock. If you see, what's a nice trick? If like you see the box edges, they're bright red, and then at the bottom it's like you can it's sort of darker red overlaying the other textures. If you got that dark red patch instead of the light red, which I'll show you now, which is there, that means the model is touching the floor. So it's just a nice little bit, so you know your model's not flying all over the place. Let's have a bush tucked around here. There we go. A few bit of variation, nothing too fancy. Alright, we're gonna do the flowers now. And grass, what have we got? We've got a yellow plant, we've got some lilies. I'm going to put the lilies on the water actually. And still with the align to ground, just randomly click. That is still massive. Wow. Okay, maybe not. Yeah, it's, if you don't want it, if you want to adjust the scale, which it just comes into the zone, then that's the scale of your actual model. And whoever made these ones isn't very clever, because he didn't scale them up right. So we are literally just pressing Control D, moving it around. I'm not going to fuss with the rotation with these models, because it's just such a basic model. There's hardly anything to it. If you rotate it, it's going to look the same anyway. But with stuff like rocks, there are different aspects to it. A little bit of concentration here. Some of that. There we go. They're nice little models. So just they're nice. There you go. Shove one up here. I don't know. Have a few up here if you want. Why not? What we'll do actually is reselect our grass and just fill that in. There we go. Right. That's looking like a zone, decentish. We need to add trees for this sort of plains. I'm not going to put too many down, because I don't want it to start looking like a forest. I just want it to have a few, just for some variation. So I'm going to go into my trees folder. I don't know what that is. They don't look very good or nice actually, so I'm gonna, that looks a bit better. Now these things are huge, so we're going to scale it right down. We're going to get that in line with the actor. Now, what you may have noticed in MMOs is that trees are absolutely massive. And the reason for this is game developers being incredibly lazy and don't want to put things down. But the occasional massive tree can work. Yeah, and just like with the rocks, you want your trees to have polygon collisions. One thing to be aware of, though, by doing that, and you're adding collisions to the trunk, which is nice, and this one loses its trunk halfway up, apparently. But you're also doing it to the leaves, so if your tree is tiny, it's going to be a bit of a pain if you get stuck on some leaves. Just something to hold in my thought. That looks massive enough. I'm going to have a few of these massive trees. I'll just duplicate them. There we go. Not too many. Maybe 3, maximum 4. I don't think I have 4 actually. Try and match them up to like a patchy part. I'm going to shove you next to a rock actually. Rock and a bush. And let's have one near the town as well. And what that means, we can add some fancy particle effect here as well. Oh, that's the point. With your model settings, when you select a model, you've got these tick boxes here. And with your houses, you want to have the catch rain and snow particles. That basically means if it starts raining, and you're standing under here, the rain won't fall through the model. Okay, it literally catches it. Even though there's not going to be any weather going on, it's still good practice to do it. Since these trees are so big, I'm going to have them set to do that. With smaller trees, it's not really an issue. Our trees are there. Looking decent. Our textures are doing weird things apparently. Oh well. And back to the tree front, we're going to place some more, slightly smaller scale. And where is our player model? We want to get this decent size. It's a tad too small. Move that up. Polygon collisions, and throw a few of these around. I'm gonna move one over here. No, I'm not. So I want to start, since that's looking a bit bare. And where's not having a tree? There we go. Get rid of that one actually. And apart from the texture is doing very weird things, it's getting there. Don't know why they're doing that actually. Oh well. Alright, save zone. We've got our basic scenery done-ish. I'm actually going to, whilst we're here, select that rock, which it's not letting me do. Yeah, if you're trying to select something, make sure you've got a select option at the bottom, ticked on or whatever. I'm going to duplicate that, move this, go under the water plane, because otherwise it'll just move it on top, or it just won't do it at all. Move it on top, so if we go underneath the water, it'll line it to the floor. That just allows to have a bit of rock sticking out. I'm going to reset these to 0. Put that there, put that 0, so it's a bit flat again, and drag it down. There you go, a rock sticking out. We're also going to put some lilies on the water. So if you go off foliage, grass, and there's some lilies here, so we're just going to click on those. These don't matter too much, the fact they're quite big, but hey, you get big lilies in real life, so why not? Let's shove a few next to the rock. There we go. It's nice. Right, we're going to go into a bit more detail with the actual. With the actual little building section, and first thing, and the road actually, because they are looking quite bare. We're going to start adding some fences. Eventually actors. NPCs, all that stuff. Right. Yeah, we're going to change our model and we're going to go into the props folder, and in here we've got some really bad weird models. No offense to the man who made them, or woman. First thing we do is fences, and we've got a selection here. I'm going to go with that one for now. No, I'm not. We need our actor model to start with. Where's he gone? No idea where I've put him. There he is. I'm going to move him over here so we can get this all in scale. And that is our fence, and it actually works out pretty well. Fence is roughly to your waist, maybe slightly higher. I'm going to make the fence slightly bigger. Don't want to make it too big because otherwise it just looks odd. There we go. First we're going to connect this little fence up here, just separating the wildlife from the buildings. If we actually put that slightly in that model there, it means the players have the ability to walk past. It's not so restrictive unless you want to, and you can seal that up completely. I'm going to move that slightly because it's not doing it properly. Oh yeah, that's something to check. Our buildings are actually, this one anyway, in any case, is flying slightly because they have uneven ground. So you want to go into the precise option and bring down the wire scale. And there we go. That's that problem solved. What about this one? Notice how by putting models down in the terrain editor you can still move them around and select them individually in the zone editor. There you go, there's that. We're going to change our fence to something different. I'm going to set up a fence here. Slightly bigger scale. Rotate. Just put fences along this path. Make sure your collision again is to polygon. Didn't do that with the first one. Otherwise you'll be able to walk through it. Trying to select it. There we go. And we're just going to move this and duplicate it along either side. Maybe a little bit of space so it's not too small or narrow. And put another one over here. And the reason why I've left such a big gap between these is because having the same fence over and over again will be noticed, and it doesn't look great. So we're going to choose another fence, hopefully with 3. There we go, that one's different, so we're going to get this in line with the other and get the scale to be the same, or roughly the same. That is absolutely enormous. Down one. There we go. That looks roughly in line. It's not the best measuring method. I don't really think people should use it that much, but hey, it works for this. Just shove that there. Make sure collision again is on polygon, and just duplicate that. Leave a little bit of gap. Let's set some up along here. It's just clearly defining to the player what is like hometown, I suppose, and what is wild. And it's a sort of separation sort of thing. Yeah, that looks fine, although that one's a bit odd. Shove that like that. Alright, there's some fences down. The road's coming slowly alive. We're going to do a bit more detail here. Since there's people living here, there's going to be different things like carts and barrels and various things like that. So let's start with barrels actually. Let's go with a normal barrel, which is very small. And let's go with a water barrel. And what I'm doing is just dumping them in now, so instead of having to keep scaling them up, we can get them in line with the player. I don't know about you, but I don't think barrels are that big. At least in general they're not. We can have these barrels and shove them in a corner somewhere. Just filling up the gap, right? So your scenery doesn't look so empty. Where else? We don't want to put too many in one spot either. Let's put one over here. Scale it down slightly. Let's move one over. Put one in the corner here. And we're going to cover that up. This is a lazy way of doing it. Now what I'm actually going to do is duplicate that again and move it on top, but make this one slightly smaller. You can put another one on top, but if you really put more than one on top of the other, it looks a bit like a circus. It doesn't look great. Make sure it's not doing that. Have it leaning slightly. Don't put dead in the centre on top there, and lean it slightly, but don't put it too far. I'm gonna put this on polygon, put one of the water barrels over here. Scale that down slightly smaller than the rest. To the tree now. And let's put one, I don't know, let's put one here next to this weird house shop thing. Okay, we do not need this one anymore. How much space we got? Actually, that's a nice feature. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to duplicate that, and we're going to go into the precise. Don't mess around with the rotation before doing this, otherwise weird things starts to happen. Change the pitch to 90. Okay, and now I'll put it on its side. And then, okay, that's just annoying. Let's delete that and try again. Oh damn! Let's select. Control D, move. We're going to. It's going to go that way. Okay, so we are going to do that actually. This is just going to. There we go. That's what we want. Put the barrel on its side, and then we can. Scale. Actually, it was all right. We can essentially stack them on top of each other, which is how sometimes they stored barrels back then. It's still a bit underground. Let's move it up. All we can do is just duplicate it, and then that's just gone ahead and done something weird. No idea why. Select. Oh, that is weird. Huh. Strange. Right, we're just going to duplicate this one then. That doesn't normally happen. Duplicate that, move it. Oh yeah. Rotate. Set that to 90. There we go. Move that along. If we want to change it a little bit. Don't know what's happened there. I'm going the wrong way. Let's put that to 40. This is where the precise tool comes a bit more handy, because you're doing a bit more. There we go. Okay. Remove that. The scale's roughly the same. And that is actually slightly bigger, so we're going to move that down. I'm going to leave it at 2. That's actually still smaller. Back one click. There we go. Right. I'm going to leave it at 2, because I don't want to start spending ages sorting out rotation with this very weird looking model. You can stack it up all the wall if you want. but no, I'm happy with that for now. We're going to change our model again. We've got enough barrels, so let's put a fountain. Yeah, why not? Let's say this is a rich farm people, no, wealthy enough to afford a fountain. We want the fountain to be relatively big, but nothing too massive. That looks good. There we go. And oh no, I just deleted our thing. Oops. That's into collision. There we go. I'm just going to go get another actor because I just deleted that by accident. There is an undo button. Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's that weird back arrow looking thing. Yeah. Back into props. What else we got? The market stalls. Right. There is an actual market stall. These guys aren't going to be selling clothes though. But what they might do is have some clothes on stretchers here, like this. Along the wall somewhere, drying, knitting, whatever that thing is called. Just rotate that around, just look at that. That doesn't actually make sense to put it there since they'll be keeping horses nearby, unless that's a horse thing. I know, you could, suppose I could pass one of those. I'm actually going to tuck that around here. Again, polygon. And let's have two of those, yeah. Let's have another one. Actually no, let's just have one. We're going to load up another model now. Let's have this one here, and that's where we've got to get the actor alongside, otherwise we're going to get clothes which do not... We generally want them to match the scale of the actor, otherwise it's going to look weird. That looks good. Let's have this lot hanging alongside here. Again, polygon, duplicate, and let's put another along this wall here, so it looks a little bit neater. Alright, this is starting to slowly come alive. Already we got a bit more detail coming through. What else have we got? No idea. Foliage, maybe there's some rocks, and there's pebbles. There we go. What does that look like? That's not too bad. It's a bit big, so I'm going to scale that down. And we're going to delete that. We're going to align to ground again. I'm going to scale that down. There's a few pebbles here and there. That looks quite nice, actually. Let's throw a few pebbles over here, since... yeah. Scale that down again. Doesn't matter if the scale each time is slightly different. That's actually flying slightly in the middle bit, but no one's really going to notice that. At least I hope they won't. Let's put a few underwater. I'm not going to bother adjusting the scale for the ones underwater, there's no point. We might as well play the rotation a bit. These, with rocks that size, there's little point putting collision fields on them. It's just a waste, really. And on top of that, I'll just make the actor bounce around a bit. It's not fun. There we go. Very lazy way of doing it, but hey. Let's throw a few on here as well. Majority of the pebbles would, well, I'm guessing they would probably accumulate on corners or on rough patches. So yeah, roads could be overthrown by grass a bit. So put some rocks on there. Nope. And let's put some more here. Not too many, otherwise these guys don't obviously know the meaning of cleaning. Yeah, you've got the start of something nice. At the moment you can walk off the edge of the map. It's up to you how you want to stop that. You can either have your terrain to have cliffs all the way around, you can put a giant gate there, you can have it nothing at all if you want, I don't know, or you can have it so it moves to another zone before you can actually see the point where the map ends. I'm not going to bother doing anything fancy with that. Props. Do we have anything else? No, not really. See, this is where you guys can just start adding your own models, not shields. Got other buildings. I'm going to leave it at that for scenery wise. We can get rid of this guy now. It's nothing too fancy, nothing too over the top. You could probably do a hell of a lot better job if we put more time into it, but generally that's sort of done. Right, so that's the scenery section done. The next video I will talk about introducing portals, getting your actors set up, sorting out particle effects, movement paths, and various other things, including loading music, possibly. It's actually quite easy to do. And yeah, but that's it for now. So make sure you save your zones, and I'll see you guys in the next video.